gonna get free this time. Falling into a blue sky mind. Came to me in that song, my friend.
Hey y'all, Deb Air here, or Dr. Deb, or even some people refer to me as Deborah, because I happen to be a lover of Spanish culture and I'm an active Spanish language student who's soon to take an immersion in Spanish, which I'm very excited about. I'm hopping on here pre-episode, and I have to laugh because I just recorded this and it wasn't recording, which seems so apropos for what I'm about to say. This episode that you're about to hear was not really planning on being an episode, but it became one just the same. And we recorded it right before we launched You, Me, and the Elephant. And Crystal and I, in our own individual ways and collective ways, were feeling some things. And part of it is us processing this behind the scenes of what it feels like to stretch out of our normal roles of how we see ourselves. And the other part you're going to hear us speak about is agreements. Is that a lot of times we don't even realize really what roles we hold and how the roles we hold with ourselves and others and our community influence what we allow ourselves to see, understand, what actions we choose to take. And You, Me, and the Elephant represents for both Crystal and I sort of a suspension of the roles that we were clear we were and the ones we weren't. We had recorded quite a few episodes already, but we hadn't launched it. And when we were about to launch it, I was feeling into my community of students and docs and people that I used to teach and lead and thought, oh gosh, does this fit into that role? How will people like this? Will they find value? And Crystal had her own experiences of what that's like to get her voice out into a larger community and have people listening to the value of her words. So part of this conversation is us just processing that. And the other piece goes back to what I just mentioned is agreements. Agreements are something that we are always agreeing to things that we don't even realize. And You, Me, and the elephant is all about bringing the less explicit, the more invisible, into the more explicit and more visible. Because that is where we can see it, that's where we can feel it, that's where we can really ingest and digest what is happening to be able to expand what our viewpoint may be on something, what we allow ourselves to be, how we may allow ourselves to interact more intimately with people, and even risks we may take in our life. So again, this conversation, to give you some context, was Crystal and I working through our silliness together of how we may feel about launching this and going, forget about it. We're not even going to do this. And oh my God, we swear on this. Will people just throw it aside because of that? And the other part was really us sussing out how important agreements are and how creating a container that is clear and in alignment, like a divine alignment of what your desires are, is such a powerful and, I believe, essential piece to creating change, to creating growth and expansion for ourselves. So please enjoy the conversation, the vulnerability of us really coming face to face with what if people don't like what we say? What if this is a flop? All those things that perhaps you too have gone through when you stretch into something more for yourself. So our invitation with this listening is that where are those places where you can potentially loosen the grip of roles and how you hold yourself in certain roles that potentially could be limiting? And also, how can you make more explicit what agreements you're making to yourself and with others in your relationship? We hope you enjoy this crazy ride. We'll see you in episode.
How you gonna get free this time? into a blue sky mind.
So, in honor of new beginnings, we are going to venture into this particular podcast by witnessing the little baby elephants that have arrived in our lives today. And so we're just going to wing it and see where this conversation takes us. As new beginnings go, here we are, we're testing it out, we're trying it on, we're together, we're here with you, we're so grateful. And here we go.
We talk about all this stuff. And as we talk about it, I really give us both credit for revealing we're not just coming here speaking as if we have the wisdom that we're giving or we're transmitting, imparting upon, that we're actually taking the ride with. And I think that's the vulnerable piece, to be quite honest, like the difference of having the feeling and experiences when you're talking about whatever the thing is or the person or the experience, and then you're in the relationship or experience.
Yes.
And that's where the rubber meets the road.
Yes. That neurological response. So, kind of like we have these thoughts and these theories, and we're like, oh, I feel lovely, or oh, I feel angry, or I'm processing in the safety of my own bubble. We can do it alone. We can do it with people that we choose, that we're in our safe place. We can do all this processing. And then you have those moments where you have this almost forced interaction. And all of a sudden, someone else is in this bubble that maybe you didn't even invite into the bubble, and now your neurology in your body is responding that you were like, that was not in my peace bubble before you got here.
Right. Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
it must be you, but if it's almost like now I'm picturing like these two bubbles have now meshed together, but
Mhm.
instead of fighting each other, going, your polarized view is different than my polarized view, if we separate them a little bit or just kind of like elongate our bubble into now this tubular shape. For the example we shared before about what just happened with me recently, and Chad was gone 2 weeks, and then he comes back into the space and it got a little fragmented. What was missing was an agreement of
Mhm.
what does it look like to come back into this space together, not only you as a couple but in your household, in your family. What is this agreement that is so important to coexist with people as we're doing life
Totally.
together, this
Right.
beautiful messy life together.
The thing that we keep coming back to is agreements. And I think that from my experience in our personal worlds, anyways, our personal relationships, it's not a commonplace to be like, here, these are the agreements. We may have house rules, like
Mm-hmm.
take your shoes off. But until we can bring the less explicit, like, of course you wouldn't do that because you love me, those are crazy, weird, unsaid expectations of if someone said, well, of course you would do the dishes because you love me.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much in there unsaid because there aren't agreements of either what does it mean for you to feel loved? What does it mean for me to feel loved? What does it mean for me to feel seen, held? What is the vision for this collective relationship? Because energy is everything. Energy is
That's
life.
right.
So we can be like, yeah, just go into the energy. Well, what kind of energy are you going into? You know what I mean? And
What
so I
shall we
think
do when we get there?
right, right, exactly. Part of our capacity to navigate and modulate our energy, what energy we access and allow ourselves to move and influence, is intimately connected to what agreements and value systems we're holding and creating the container for that to be. And
Yeah,
so I think they are, we talk about things not being mutually exclusive in a way. I think they really should go together.
totally.
And that they both create each other. The space creates the form, and the form informs the space. And so the
Yeah.
form part is the agreements that say, hey, these are the tagged places and flag posts, whatever you want to call it, that says these are where we live. This is the sacred. We talk about sacred space. These are the things that create the sacred in that space with and through each other. The space of the energy of the dimensionality of consciousness itself, of life, energy, space, and then the agreements are the intention. So
Mhm.
it's a way of calling in the specificity of the kind of energy that we want to live from, right?
Mhm.
It's being specific, because if we're just wishy-washy in the space, we
That's
can we
right.
can bump into anything,
I feel
right?
like my house is like a petri dish of learning for this, and I find that when I witness, like, the fragmentation part where I'm all like, "Something's not working, we're not syncing, not everyone's feeling balanced, so to speak. We need to call, for one, a family meeting." And then I always want to sort of lead with, what I guess I've been looking at it as, oh, mom's putting a schedule in place. But now that I'm thinking about it, it's more of an agreement. I'm asking for agreements. So, like, for example, they come home from school and they have like a pocket of free time. You can do what you want in this free time, but then I'll go and witness them in their free time, but I feel like it's treading on me. Like Dylan to turn the living room into like his sloppy snack crumble trail and has built a fort with spilt chocolate milk and he's in his underwear and his candies on the table. And I'm like, how did your free time now piss me off? And so it's like
We need to
there's that
rewrite what free
agreement.
time means.
That's
Yeah.
right. I'm like, "Oh my god, there was" but I want him to also be a kid and feel free and comfortable and not have to tell me he's sorry. "Sorry, mom." I was like, "Okay, what is happening here?" And that
Mm.
agreement piece comes up so strong. That is the invisible, but should be visible part.
Yes.
That less spoken part needs to be spoken. Why? Why does mom want the dishes done? Why does she feel so valued when that's done?
Why behind it, right? And I think when we are talking about agreements, that it's really, I can best say it through an example. Like, you could say, I want to lose 20 pounds. Or you could say, I want to be more vibrant and free and loving in my body. And how do I do that? These are the parameters that actually create the petri dish, as you were mentioning. In order to
Mhm.
be vibrant and more free in my body, then I'm going to actually run this race. I'm going to do these things versus, hey, I'm going to lose weight. These are all the things I have to do to lose weight.
That's
It's a
right.
very different feeling versus saying, let's say with your family, how do we create a vibrant, interconnected, intimate, loving and respectful family?
That's
Okay,
right.
well, what is part of that? What kind of energy are we calling in? So there's the intention. That's the part, that the question first. And
Mhm.
then with that, we call in, we start to speak of the energy that we want more of. So Crystal gets to speak to the energy. Your husband
Mhm.
gets to speak to the energy. Your kids get to speak to the energy. And then from that, you determine, this is the energy that we want, and these are the parameters that become the agreements,
That's
right?
right.
I've seen this with a few of my son's schools, young schools, one of them, and well, two of them actually, and they were great, amazing visionaries. So they talked and spoke of the energy
Mhm.
of the vision, is the energy of saying, this is life, this is what we see life evolving to, this is what we see happening. But if we don't do the other part and say, okay, in order to recreate this, these are the parameters. You don't plant something and not expect it to need sun or
Right.
water or feeding in some kind, because it'll die. And so that those visions end up with my son's schools. They struggled because they had incredible visionaries, but they didn't have the parameters that then
That's right.
supported
That's
that
right.
continuation or reproducibility of that vision, of that energy to manifest,
I
right? And
even
so
like the change of words. Like, for me to not have to say structure all the time feels so much more inviting
breathable.
versus
Yeah.
yeah, so I love the parameters piece, I love the agreements piece, the vision, intention is what everyone agrees to, right? All 4 of us had to contribute to, well, what is your vision, your intention? We would all agree with that. Of course,
Mhm.
we want to be seen and heard and loved and have this vibrant, safe haven that is our sanctuary to come home to every day. So Great. Okay, then. So, energetically, what does that look like, or where are you coming from? So, it gives us the range to say, this is kind of how I show up in the world, and this is where my energy is, and this is what I'm valuing. So, everybody gets to have a stake in the game. Everybody gets to have their own spaceship that they're riding on. And then within that galactic star being, now that we all agree with this bigger mission, how are we going to fine tune it even more and say, oh, okay, well, how do you get up every day and walk your walk? What do you do? How do you to get to that
Yes.
you appreciate and value so much? And even
Mhm.
just retelling the story differently is inviting versus what could probably be labeled as the patriarchal capitalistic way of, okay, you want a good family, this is what good families do. This, I feel like I'm talking in drill sergeant voice now, I've just changed into someone else. These are your protocols, these are the things you 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups every day for that firm body. Go and throw 100 baseballs, make sure you read an hour, sleep 8 hours, eat healthy. It just, I don't know, it just doesn't seem as fun
It's
as being in the spaceship going towards the beautiful intention and then trying to figure out what your energy color or whatever is. And within that are parameters and agreements. I feel like I've got colorful flags waving behind my spaceship. I wanna go now. I've got streamers behind me now. I'm like, "Woo, let's go to the party."
we're all getting a flavor of why I love Crystal so much. I want to be in the galactic ship. You said so many things. I just have to breathe that in for a moment. Here's the tricky part. If I heard you right,
Okay.
you said structure agreements. These are my words, but what I was hearing is that you want meaning to it, right? You want energy in there. And when we're kind of living in structure because it's been habitual, it doesn't
Mhm.
even ignite any higher consciousness, then it becomes empty. And when it becomes empty, we either go into a status quo mode and keep doing the things, but we're not living in richness. It's not life giving.
Yeah.
Or we start to resist it because inside or internally, we know that it's not enriching. So, with a lot of things, any kind of rules, or if we're going on a diet or an exercise ritual, there's
Right.
always agreements. Most of them are just unsaid, they're
Mhm.
invisible, but we're living through our agreements based on what we believe, what we've been
Mm.
taught to believe.
Oh, that just painted a whole nother bubble for me. Because look at, for example, my household. If all four of us are living from these invisible agreements, and they're all different agreements, of
Exactly.
course, when we come together in our unified field, it doesn't align because we're not
Exactly.
sharing or voicing, we're not even being fully aware of what agreements we're abiding by in
Yeah.
the unit in the first place.
Inside your home, there's no yield signs or stop signs or green lights. There's no really rules because everyone's going by their own internal unsaid rules, which
Totally.
then here's the energy that those are the unsaid agreements that are really driving it. And those are what create the patterns, right? We
Mm.
reproduce the same patterns. We're like, why are we doing the same argument? Why are we doing the same thing? Why are you never doing the damn dishes?
Yeah, gosh, I love it. We all have agreements. We just may not be agreeing on what the agreements are.
Or we're not even
You're
realizing what
right.
our agreements are for ourselves. And
Totally.
unless we can say, I think where the richness comes in is to go to the energy of life and say, what kind of energy do we want to create? What is important to me? That's the visionary. That's the energy. This is the energy we're calling in.
Yeah.
And the next part of that really is what kind of petri dish, AKA agreements, do we create that creates such an environment? Do we plant this in shade? Is this a full sun plant? What environment calls this energy in and reproduces it? So then when we create these more explicit agreements,
Mhm.
we now start to break patterns and we start to transform, transmute, and create new patterns. So
Yeah.
now we can start living together differently because these things that were leading the show, the unsaid agreements, now are clear and they're out there for everybody to see. So it's also much clearer for ourselves and in relationship with people when it's something out of alignment. But sometimes it's like a gremlin, right? When everyone has their own agreements, we're bumping into ourselves along the way. We're feeling charges and different experiences in our body. We're not really sure where they're coming from because we didn't have these explicit ways in which we use the sacred circle, the agreement to say, hey, these are the things. If you're not sure, what would create a vibrant, connected, intimate family? Then you just think of times in your life where you felt connected, where you felt loved, where you felt heard. Then you can like reverse engineer that and say, well, every time I experienced this, I noticed that A happened or B happened. So the answers are there. We just need to be able to really collectively ask for what we want. And then how do we create that environment? So eventually that's how paradigms expand and shift because patterns will change with
Yeah.
that energy being called in, with the agreements, the container that supports that energy. So that energy has a way in and a way to exchange consistently, reproducibly.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find more of who you are, and then it creates new patterns of
Right.
existence.
That's right. It's like riding the energy wave. I keep feeling a small shift was the gateway in for me. And then my whole perception changed. So then I'll go out into my world with this new energy richness and will be able to contribute to a better version of the way we were doing it versus focusing on, well, this sucked, that didn't work, throw it all away, abandon ship, go to your own planets. We'll try again next year. So I love that because it
Right.
is you're fine tuning. There's no perfect template. There's no manual. It's just you're on the ride. You're taking it day by day. You're getting the feedback. You have the tools, you have your community. I remember at the beginning of this, you asked me how my day was or how was it going? And I just plopped my elephant right on the table. I have this elephant. Here it is. There's something very liberating in that. And I find the more that we talk about this together, the more that we title it a specific curious question on the podcast, or if we're just speaking to what is happening in the moment, all of these are diamonds being rubbed, sparkled clean, picking things up out of the dirt and just rubbing them with our hands. And I really appreciate the witnessing, asking the question, being witnessed, holding the sacred space. We have our own unsaid and said agreements that work beautifully
Mm,
between us. And I'm grateful. This
thank you.
petri
I
dish
am
that
as
we're in
well.
together.
Yeah, same. Really, as I was listening to you, these words came in of when are we just, I'm enough or I'm not too much, or it's just that, when can, I've said this a lot just about aging. It's like, I'm just going to fiercely love myself, fiercely love those wrinkles, fiercely love how my skin's changed. Whatever the thing is, how can we just fiercely pierce the veil of the things that feel harder, or just sometimes we don't even know they're there because they are invisible. But you said this in one episode that like you bump into the elephant, you didn't even know it was there. So one of
Yes.
the things that I'm feeling as we're expanding the circle with this conversation, with this podcast, it's, oh, we're inviting other people in. That means the things we talk about, the self judgments, those all exist out there too.
Yes.
So I think for me, it's a very interesting ride. I've been on the planet for a while. I've touched some people, and I'm so grateful for anyone I've ever been able to connect with in any way, healing way, transformational way, expansive way. And I think what happens is I become comfortable with, oh, this is sort of who I am. I help people in this way, or I have certain, I don't necessarily consciously think this, but this is where I'm calling myself out. I have a certain expertise that
Mhm.
says, oh, okay, I have some experience, and these are the things, these are the ways that I give my gifts. So they should have some value, right? We all have value. So there's a certain kind of persona. And part of that persona of my history is expanding into extraordinary states of being, creating greater accessibility. I could spin it a million different ways.
Mhm.
As I've gone through my own journey, I realized that there's been a persona, and then there's also the part that's doing the life behind the persona. And I think that that's what this podcast is, where I'm sharing whatever. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm an expert. What I'm experting in this with you is just experting transparency, experting being an expert and just here it is, throwing it
Yeah.
out there. And my whole point in actually sharing this piece is there's that part that I wasn't even thinking about it until we did a post and said, okay, we're going to launch this thing. And I was like, oh,
To other people.
we're
Oh.
opening a circle. That's okay. And it's not like I haven't spoken in front of a good amount of people.
Absolutely.
There's also this illusion that we have, and I see the comments and I'm so grateful, people that are excited for this to come. And then I go, oh gosh, is that person going to, are they even going to like this? Or are they going to go, wow, really, Deb? She's swearing? Or I don't know. It's like, wow, it's really giving me a beautiful mirror of how do I either think I'm perceived or feel like I desire to be perceived? And yet, here is me, here is you.
Mhm.
And we are saying something here is valuable for somebody.
That's right.
If at the very least, the both of us.
I knew you were Ah! Oh my gosh. That's too funny. I almost feel like the air quotes were coming at the "at least it's for both of us," knowing that you would rewrite that 100 different ways, and I love that you actually said it that way. 'Cause it's a me too. Like, of course we know if we're doing a podcast, we're gonna publish it eventually. And then our neurology, when it actually did say, well, okay, not kidding, it's coming in next week, there our neurology went, oh, what are
Oh,
all these feelings that I'm having? What is this that's
right.
coming to the surface? What are these little elephants that are now sitting
What
on
have I done?
this is so good.
So I guess the to go to your Me Too part, it's like, yeah, we all not only have value, but there's also I don't want to have to hold up a persona of
Mm.
whatever that is. Here's the thing. We all have agreements that are often invisible. This is what I mean. There is a persona that I am certain, even if I can't define it right now, that I have held, at least on social media or through the people that I've touched.
Mhm.
Um, and now I'm exposing even more. It's not as scripted, or it's not really barely scripted at all.
Yeah.
And there's an exposure, a transparency that goes, oh, these are the parts. That's the whole point of the damn podcast. That's why
Right.
I named it. By the way, this came from the stars. So I was like, oh,
Yes.
clearly I'm supposed to, you, me, and the elephant. And so really am feeling it's like the very thing that the universe says, hey, you're supposed to be a voice. Crystal's supposed to be a voice.
Mhm.
We're all supposed to be a voice. That it's the very thing. And now my growth edge that goes, oh, okay. But I'm supposed to just go where the rich energy is. Well, this is rich.
Yes.
This is rich.
Yes.
Yeah, clearly I'm out of words. It's just interesting to feel the little baby elephants. Like they're little tiny babies. They're so cute. They're so freaking
They're
cute. And I
so
just want to
cute.
hold them. Sometimes when you say, hey, I'm feeling this way, I shared with a dear friend, she saw that we were going to be launching this and she said, that's so fantastic. And I said, yeah. And she's someone who she's known me for years. And I said, yeah, it's different than what I see some of my friends putting out, let's say. And she said, oh, are you comparing yourself? Or I don't know if she said I'm surprised, maybe. This could be part of the persona. Oh, I think she said it's interesting that you're comparing yourself.
Mhm.
And my first response was like, well, I'm not really comparing myself. Well, I guess I am. When I just saw a couple posts that I was like, oh, this is so
Mhm.
beautiful what these dear people that I know are doing and how they're touching people and inspiring people. And my first response was like, I don't think I'm comparing myself. Oh, I guess that's exactly what I'm doing. And I'm comparing myself to myself. That's where the new little, that's the beautiful thing that when we can embrace these elephants that come up as a source of energy for us,
Yes. Our spirit animal.
our spirit animal, right? As the space, as the energy that's calling you back,
Yes.
then we can say there's freedom in here. It's not about going into stuckness and trying to get unstuck.
That's
It's
right.
saying, I embrace this experiencing as an energy of life. And because I have reverence for, I will not only expand in that light, I will find these little baby elephants. I'm thinking about my mom. And I remember she had ovarian cancer, or that was one of the expressions that she was told. And she had surgery, and they were going into her abdomen to see if there was anything that they could do, take out. And I'll never forget the surgeon speaking to myself and my brothers, my dad, and saying, I've never seen anything quite like it. When we went into her abdomen, it was just tiny, hundreds and hundreds of tiny granules of sand
Mm,
almost. And when I just said baby elephants,
yeah.
it's going to make me cry. Those were her baby elephants that she never opened the door for.
Oh,
And I
oh,
really do believe that cancer, it's such an adaptive strategy where we don't value the energy of life that exists in there. And she spread it so far out because she didn't want to go there, or couldn't go there, or wasn't supported to go there, whichever it may be.
mm,
And that's how she adapted. But in the process of adapting, her body had to change and the functionality went down and
yeah.
it didn't
Yeah.
function anymore. So it's in that. And poof, so
Oh, thank you for sharing that. It's so important. All these threads that come up are not coming up to be edited. They're coming up to be expressed.
yeah.
And that is such an important piece because that's exactly, I think, what you and I both are experiencing every single time we just get together and have the conversation. These threads have energy and they do desire to be witnessed, and they are.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mm.
I feel like a heavenly fan club. I can just see like this
Oh,
panel of
that's
angels right
really
now
beautiful.
going, we're tuning in to you, me, and the other
Wow, that
on their
just
little
touched
space
me.
cloud ships. This is just my mind. The pictures that come through. I'm like, how
Oh,
cute is that?
oh, it's
Little
beautiful.
elephants flying around with
I just
wings
saw my mama
everywhere.
smiling.
Oh
Thank you
my
for
god.
that. That was quite
Thank
a gift you
you.
just gave with your words. I think that there's a little bit of us, or a lot of bit of us, that's like, oh, hope you like us. You may be like, what the heck are they talking about? I don't get them. And
Ah.
that's okay. I know we're not for everyone, maybe, and we're not supposed to be, but I do. Gosh, even if it's just that heavenly fan club, that was beautiful.
If
That was
not, it's for
beautiful.
them and for us.
Absolutely. Well, and if it's for them and for us, it's for
Then
everyone
that's
else.
enough.
Well,
Yes.
it's
Oh my
enough.
gosh, it's
It's
enough.
enough.
And it is for everyone.
And it is for
Absolutely.
everyone. So there you have it. That's all to say that we hope you like our
And
podcast.
we hope you like us and our podcast too.
And
What if
it's that whole pass the note in class when you're a kid. I like you or I don't
yes
like
or
you.
no?
So here it is. All is truly welcome.
It
And
is. Here it is, and here we are. And here you are, because whoever's hearing this is listening. So here we are together.
well, thank you, Crystal, for taking this ride. And thank you all who do find something for yourself in this. We're immensely grateful, and we hope to be talking to you for a while or more. And now, Trevor Hall with Blue Sky Mind.
Through the body, it's in and through the body.